Hi, welcome back to Taji's World of Books, and welcome to part 2 of my deep dive into Christine Feehan. Hey you guys, welcome back. So this is part 2 of my paranormal romance and my deep dive into Christine Feehan's Dark series. So I have a bunch of books to get through. I've read 12 of these books this week, and so I'm going to try to get them to you. And I think what I'm going to do is call these are alpha dark heroes, but they're also broken heroes. So most of the characters in these books are broken in some way, shape, or form, both the hero and the heroine. So let's just dive right on in. So I read Dark Legend, and Dark Legend is Gabriel and Francesca. Gabriel is an ancient. So in this world of the Carpathians, remember Carpathians and vampires are different. Vampires are when you succumb to the darkness and you let the darkness take over and you make that ultimate kill. Carpathians are what you are prior to that. So they're of the earth, they're natural. They are an ancient species, race with laws and rules and a prince and ruling body and, you know, things that govern them and how they should act. Okay, so with that premise, Gabriel is an ancient. And I love it now that the books are unfolding, you're starting to get a timeline in terms of, well, not a timeline, let me say a family tree of all of the different players. So let me go ahead and show that to you. And I like it because as the story unfolds, like you really need this family tree to really know what's going on. So Gabriel is part of Dara Tarazonov. He's part of that line. So he is the older brother of Grigori, who is the healer of this race of people. Okay, and so he is long thought to be dead. And so he comes on the scene. And he is the twin to Lucian, and Lucian and his mind connect through the psychic connection because they're twins. They connect often. So Lucian talks to him, and he now has to decide if he's going to kill his brother Lucian because Lucian has turned vampire. Okay, so he meets Francesca. Francesca immediately when he sees her, colors, emotions, sexual desire, he knows she's the life mate. And he sees that there is a rival for his affection. There's a doctor that she's developed a long-term relationship with, like a friendship. And so now he has to figure out how to battle her affection away from this doctor. He's injured, and she is known to be a healer and to help people, and she immediately offers him solace and protection. And so he's like, she knows my people, she knows my ways, how is this? But he's not able to discern it because he's so injured at the moment that he meets her. So she basically takes him in and takes care of him, and once he is in his right mind, he binds them together, saying those ancient ritual words. And she's like, I am centuries old, I'm an ancient in my own right, I've flown under the radar, how could you do this to me? Well, the story unfolds, and I love it because there's an abused component and a child that is severely abused, and Francesca and Gabriel band together to protect this child and to keep this child safe. Remember, there's an ongoing plot between the battle and the war between vampires and Carpathians and the human faction, which are vampire hunters. You also then have this ongoing storyline of these families, ancient families coming together and finding each other that haven't seen each other in so long. And so once they get the HEA and Gabriel and Francesca work everything out, they adopt this abused and battered child, Skylar. She becomes important later. This is really good because it is, again, it's like, in part 1, I say, if you touch her, you'll die. Gabriel is willing to go to the ends of the earth for Francesca to keep her safe. And Francesca feels like he slighted her thousands and thousands of years ago because she knew that he was her mate and he didn't know. And so he has a lot of groveling and making up to do. So this is like a second chance romance. It is, if you touch her, you'll die. It is, I am broken and you are the only one who can heal me and make me better. And we're gonna, you know, together in our own power, we are going to ensure that all of the evils of the world don't touch the people that we love. So every book is getting better and better. So this is a 5 out of 5 star for me. The next book in the story is Dark Guardian, and Dark Guardian is now Lucian's story, so we get to hear what's happening with Lucian. Lucian meets Jax, and Jax, again, so this is where all the broken heroine and hero come in, because Jax lives in an abusive home. She has an abusive stepfather. The abuse that Jax goes through in this story is tremendous. It is tremendous. And the things that she has to endure to keep herself safe and to keep her family safe, and the things that happen to her as a result. She is basically raised by the special forces, and she is a force to be reckoned with in her own right. As she grows up, she becomes a police officer, and she's deadly, deadly, deadly. And so now she comes up against Lucian, and Lucian is a force to be reckoned with. He's an ancient, he's powerful, he's even more powerful than Gabriel, he's more powerful than any of the other Carpathians. The most powerful Carpathian that we've known so far is Gregory, and Gregory is the younger brother to these two twins, Gabriel and Lucian. They are even older and more powerful, but of the same line. And so, you know, there's a lot of dubious consent situations. These characters and these heroes in this story, when I say they're alpha and they're going to protect their women, but they're going to do it at all costs, but they also do some shitty stuff, which is like they convert people against their will. They have sex against people's will. They manipulate what people think and what people feel. And so you kind of have to decide whether or not you're on board with these characters or not. But by the end of the book, the way that Feehan really weaves the story, you really are all in at the end. And so this is Lucian and Jax's story. Amazing. And all of these characters, it's like learning math, right? Like everything builds upon itself. And so each character, you need to know about them, and you need to file away like where do they fit in the scheme of this world, because they all are relevant as we go and the story develops. Okay, so then the next book in the story is Dark Symphony, and Dark Symphony is Byron and Antonetta, and so you're kind of like, whoo. So I think that this weaves into the Scarletti Curse, another book that she's written that I have not read, and I don't know that if I plan to. But I love it because Antonetta is a pianist. She is famous in her own right. She has her own, this is taking place in Italy. She's a very practical woman. She's damaged because she was blinded by an explosion, and so she has had to learn how to survive in her world after having been scarred as well as being blinded. She has to deal with her family. There's a conspiracy going on in her family. There is a lot of stuff going on, so there's this mystery that you have to figure out. And Byron, whom we haven't heard about before, sort of comes in. I love this step back here. Byron comes in and has to, you know, help figure out what's going on and who's trying to kill her. And this is the first time that we see the family tree that breaks down the different families. So these are, Byron is a part of the Justicano and the Blendrake family, and that's like a sort of spin-off of all of the characters that we've heard so far. But there is one character in here that I think is freaking hilarious, and it's his nephew. His nephew's name is Yosef, and Yosef is being warded by Byron's sister Eleanor and her husband Vlad, or her life mate Vlad. And Yosef is now like a teenager in this book, and Yosef comes up later, and Yosef is like a typical teenager, right? He's into rap, he's into like saggy pants, he's got piercings going on, but they're like Carpathian. So, and these are ancient warriors, so they have no idea. So yeah, like Byron in this book is like, what is wrong with that boy? He met the prince, and like he started spitting words, and spit was coming out of his mouth, and basically you figure out that he's talking about that he was like, he rapped a song to the prince, and Byron is like, somebody needs to box his ears because something's wrong with him. Like there's like a definite like generational gap going on. It's super hilarious. And as the books go on, it gets even cuter. But this is like, it kind of came a little bit out of nowhere because you're like, who's Byron? And like, these are not the characters that I've heard of before. I haven't heard of any of these characters, but they do pull them in later in the books. And so it definitely is good. And so this one was a 4 out of 5 star for sure. And again, like I said, there's this like broken hero and like trying to figure out all the different plot points in terms of like where you are and what these characters are willing to do, because they are alpha and they are like little bullies and they're directive and they want their women to conform. But these women, the more the books go on, the more it's like alpha hero meets Xena, because these women are powerful, but they're subtly powerful. And so there's like angst and push and pull, but these women get their way, but they do it because of love. Their men love them so much that they want to keep them safe, but they're willing to concede to keep them happy, because of the foremost important thing to these men is that their women are happy. Okay, so then we go into, remember I told you the bind up, and we read Dark Dream in here before, so now we read Dark Descent. And I absolutely love, this is Joy and Train's story. This is a 5 out of 5 star. It's a novella, but it's a bit longer. And what happens, it starts off that she's injured. She's another like FBI agent or officer. She's on a scene, and as a result, she gets shot. So she winds up in the hospital, and what you find very early on is that she has the ability to travel via astral projection. So she and they're doing a procedure on her that's painful, and she doesn't want to be in her body, so she astrally projects to this cave, and her brother and sisters are cave explorers. So she takes herself to this cave in the Carpathian Mountains, and she meets Train, who is injured after a battle with other vampires. And so she's like, what are you doing here? And he's like, what are you doing here? And he looks at her and he instantly sees colors, and he's like, oh my God, you're my life mate. And they start talking and having conversations, but he doesn't get her name and he doesn't have much time. And so it's like rapid that he has to catch what's going on. And so he develops a mental link with her and starts to communicate with her over a successive number of weeks. And now we start to see, as the story sort of richens and develops, we see that Joy's family comes from a family of jaguars and mages. And so now we have crossover of interspecies in bloodlines. And so then the plot thickens, the story develops. This makes it then more complicated for the vampires to their plans to take over the Carpathian race. Now the plots get even more intriguing, because now you've got mages, which are magicians, and like they have like spells and they weave spells, these very intricate spells. And so now the vampires are starting to work with mages, but now you've got mages on the Carpathian side. Man, I gotta tell you, so his mate is, and so they go through, so through this dark descent, they go through some traumatic things. And her siblings name are Jubal and Gabrielle. And they stand by her because she stands by Train, and therefore Train is with them. And so they become an insta family, and I absolutely love it. And it is packed full of action and intrigue and mystery, and for a novella, like, it delivers like this, and you're on the edge of your seat, and this is an absolute 5 out of 5 stars. So good. So I was really happy that I did that. And like I said, it just keeps getting better. So now we go back to Dark Melody, and Dark Melody then goes back to the Dark Troubadours, the group that Julian and Aiden, the other twins, Julian is now mated with Desiree. So Desiree is part of the Dark Troubadours. Her brother is the security guard, and he is the guitarist. And so, man, this is Diane and Corinne's story, and this is a 5 out of 5 star. He meets her in a bar. He is with one of their human compatriots, like whatever, like they're at this bar. They meet these two girls. He's instantly attracted to her. His colors and sexual desire and feelings tap in immediately. He wants to like have a conversation with her. He takes her outside, and he hears this sound, and he's like, what is that sound? That's another heartbeat. Oh my God, that's an infant heartbeat. She's pregnant. Oh my God, she's pregnant with another man's child. oh my God, she has a wedding ring on. And he delves into her memories, and her husband has recently died. And on top of it, she has a fatal heart condition. And I gotta tell you, this story is deep. Deep on so many levels. It's the first book that I cried in because it is so passionate and so beautiful and so lovely on so many levels. And it talks about the extent that Carpathian males will go through to love their mates, right? Like to love their better halves, their other halves. It is, and that not only what the Carpathian males will go through, but with the Carpathian community, because the community comes together through this internet psychic link that they all have. And so the minute that they find that something is going on with one of their people, they all bind together through this ritual chant to lend their strength and lend their healing power to ensure that the people survive. This book, I'm telling you, is so, so, so good. It's so good. It's emotional. It's angsty. You feel for the characters. You want them to get their happily ever after. You don't know how it's going to work out. You're in tears because your heart is breaking for all of the characters, for the baby that's involved. You want everybody to survive because it comes down to the life of the mother or the life of the baby. It's a Sophie's Choice type situation. And it's just like, oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. So, but you will get through it. So this is a 5 out of 5 star. Dark Destiny. This is Destiny and Nikolai's story. And like I said, every book is getting better and better. Nikolai, because Destiny as a child reaches out through a trauma. So this has trauma. This has trigger warnings. Know the trigger warnings. She reaches out because she's in a tremendous trauma situation, and her psychic ability is so powerful that she connects with Nikolai. But Nikolai can't find her, and she is abducted by a vampire and is abused and neglected in horrible and horrific ways. And Nikolai can't get to her, and he knows that she is his life mate. And so she's so terrified of everything that's happening, she blocks him. But prior to her blocking him, he teaches her how to destroy the vampire, and she does. And she is constantly on the run from so she becomes a hunter, and he teaches her everything that he knows. But the problem is that he taught her too well, and so now she's on the run from him, and he's trying to find her and save her, but she won't succumb because she doesn't understand that there's a difference between vampires and Carpathians. And in his memories, she sees that he kills and that he's a destroyer and that he has a temper and he's dark and can be evil at times. Evil to the enemies, not evil to you. But she doesn't get it. And so she's on the run from him. So now they become adversaries. So how do we work through that? And it's just, it's so powerful and it's so good because you're like, oh my God, Destiny, he's not trying to hurt you. He wants to protect you. And Destiny is like, I know that you're evil and I'm going to destroy you. And so, oh my God, what does Nikolai do and how does he get through it? And he's got his brother, Feehan, that's there with him. And Feehan is like, this is bullshit. And Feehan is old and he's like freaking grumpy. He's like, just take her and make her your maid and to convert her and just take her away. He goes, I don't have time for this. And so they basically confront each other and everybody's confronted and Feehan is like, I'm going to take you out. And so he's like, and so Nikolai is like, don't you do it, Feehan. You're close to turning. You're almost like ready to be a vampire. Like, don't do it. And he's like, so he gets the friend, her Destiny's best friend. And he's like, if you don't release my brother, I'm going to turn your best friend. And she's like, you see, you're evil. So it's just like drama on so many levels, but so, so, so good. So this is a 5 out of 5 star for sure. Okay. So this is Dark Hunger, and Dark Hunger, I got this is the manga version of it, but I went ahead, there's a bind up where you have 2 of the other novellas that are in it, that are in one book, and it hasn't come yet. So in my part 3, I'll go ahead and show that to you. But Dark Hunger is a really short story. It's about the De La Cruz branch of the Carpathians. It takes place in South America. This is where Riordan De La Cruz meets Juliet. And Juliet and her sister are part of the Jaguar clan. So they're all in South America. So when the Mikhail's father sent out his ancient warriors out to, protect Carpathians, he and his brothers answered the call. So they're ancients and they've been in South America forever. And so when Juliet goes into this human installation of vampire hunters to free all of the animals that they have captured. She finds Reardon there. And so as a result of that, she rescues him, and then they have a trek through the jungle, and they discover then that they are life mates. So this is then the introduction of the De La Cruz branch. It's like a 2-hour novella. It's super sweet. I love it because it gives me all of the manga feel. So I'm actually happy that I have this version of it. You know, it's so sweet. I loved it. It was fun. Very, very good. Okay, so then the next that I read is Dark Secret. Look at that old school step back. I loved it. This is Raphael and Colby. This is definitely an enemies to lovers. This is two families that are absolutely at odds with one another. This is the De La Cruz branch that we were introduced to in Dark Hunger, and the Chavez family, which are sort of the human faction that oversees their lands and their assets and their protection while the Carpathians are sleeping during the day. So there definitely is a feud over land. This one was the first book that, I'm not going to say I didn't like it, but Colby got on my nerves because Colby is so resistant to Raphael's advances that it makes it almost uncomfortable, and Raphael doesn't do it with a joie de vivre, like he does it like with a forceful hand. And so the first time that they come together, you sort of are saying, is that consensual? Like, is she consenting? And she even says, I didn't give you my consent. And she's like, that's basically like rape. And he is so offended and so hurt because he's like, but you responded to me. How can that be? So this was a tough one, because you can see that there is a mutual attraction there, and you can see that and she doesn't get it until the very end that she really is interested in him and really wants him, but it takes a long time to get there. And so he puts himself at risk many, many times throughout the book to try and like coax her and bring her around to his side. So this was a tougher read. It wasn't one of my favorites because Colby gets on my nerves and she wasn't really my favorite character. So, but even still, that was a 4 out of 5. Then the next book in the series is Dark Demon, and this is Natalia's story with Vikirnov. Remember, Vikirnov is the brother to Nikolai in Dark Destiny. So this is sort of the next story here. You know, she meets Colby in a bar in Dark Secret. She meets Colby in a bar, and because at the end of Dark Destiny we find a picture of someone that the vampires are looking for, because obviously she's special in some way. And we find that she has the psychic ability that whatever she touches, she can know the history of that object. So they send Vikirnov, because they know he's close to turning and he needs a task. They send him off to go find her because she's evading everybody. Here in Dark Secret, she runs into Colby at a bar, and she basically says, stay away from Carpathians because they are deceivers and liars and will do all kinds of things to make you think one thing, but they are totally different. So we see that her perception of what's going on is totally wrong, and it becomes apparent that she is actively evading Vikirnov. So then when we get to this book, Vikirnov has really caught up to her, and it then becomes their story, and the story then deepens even more, and you start to see that Natalia in her own right has mage blood, and not only does she have mage blood, but now many characters are starting to come together because of their ancestry, that they have connections that we didn't even know. And so she's helping to unweave spells and things that are happening. So she's very powerful, but at the same time she's got a snarky personality, and she's kind of bitchy, and she's kind of, you know, she's definitely Xena, princess warrior, and she's like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I'm tough and I'm bad, and you can't, there's nothing you can do, Vikirnov, ancient warrior, because I am a, you know, I am a force to be reckoned with as well. So it's good for sure. It's good. It's got a cute step back of the two of them, and you know, like, It's all right. Like, I don't know, like, it wasn't like my favorite, but I definitely, you know, she fights with them every step of the way. But what I do like here is that we see Mikhail, the prince of the Carpathians. We see his mate Raven. We see Falcon and Sarah, and Falcon and Sarah come from the novella Dark Dream. We see Train and Joy from, and Jubal and Gabrielle from Dark Descent. They come in and help tremendously in this book. So there's a mystery element that they're trying to solve, and that's been really coming together over the last 6 books. So I like that things are starting to come together, and you're really starting to see the backstory and of everything that's going on in the character. So I absolutely loved Dark Celebration, because Dark Celebration is a culmination of everybody. Everybody that I've talked about in part 1 and part 2, you see them all here. We get snippets from every single one of them. And we are getting closer and closer to understanding why the Carpathians are not having female children. We are getting closer and closer to see why the vampires are banding together and fighting together as a unit as opposed to solitary individuals. We're starting to see more of the ancient bloodlines come together and which bloodlines they belong to, and they're working together. They're also finding their mates or their, you know, life partners. You know, the family trees are starting to get bigger and bigger as we add more players into the mix, right? We're starting to see that everybody has, all of the psychic women, human women that the Carpathian males are mating with, have talents that are necessary for the Carpathians to survive. And everybody is working together, and old alliances are reforging or becoming more strengthening. It is allowing us to continue into the next generation, because now this then we know is 50 years from Dark Dream. So when Mikhail and the Prince of Carpathians and Raven get together, this is now 50 years later. So it's like pretty amazing, right? And so now we see Skylar. Skylar is then, so basically what happens in this book is that it's a holiday celebration. Raven says to Mikhail, I want to get everybody together for the holidays. So bring everybody from all over the globe together, and so that to bring them back to the Carpathian Mountains so that we can all have this celebration together. And that's exactly what they do. And so Dmitri basically has been out in like Russia working with the wolf packs. And so he lays eyes on Skylar, who is the adopted daughter of Gabriel and Francesca. And she's 16 years old, and he figures out that she's his life partner, his mate. And so what does Gabriel do? That's discussed in here. There also then is an interaction between Marianne, who is the best friend of Destiny, who the Kirnoff was basically like, if you don't let my brother go, I'm going to kill your friend. So that's Marianne. And she meets Manuelito, and so he discovers that she is the life mate. And so that then these things are left open, and they're left open because the next books are going to continue with that. And so this is definitely a 5 out of 5 star, because you get to see where everybody is and what everybody is doing and how everybody is coming along and the developments with them, and like that their babies are happening. And so it's just beautiful. It's really, really great. So she did a good job with that. That's a 5 out of 5 star. And then lastly, this is Dark Possession, and as we left off in Dark Celebration, Manuelito basically is in danger of turning to vampire. He's very, very close. He is literally like inches away from becoming vampire, and he's in the forest, and he sees Marianne and Skylar and a couple of other hunters, and he basically color hits him like a wash, and as a result he, through some subversive means, binds Marianne to him. But at the end of this book, he basically puts his life on the line to save his prince's mate, and as a result of that he dies. And this story picks up there, and it's their story of what happens to them, and him salvation and forgiveness and respect and understanding and support. And even if you don't understand what's going on, I'm going to be there for you regardless. So this is another 5 out of 5 star. So really, really good. Okay, so you guys, that is part 2 of my deep dive into Christine Feehan. So this one, as I said, is going to be alpha heroes, but broken alpha heroes, and Alpha meets Xena, and what does that look like? So, having said that, that is all that I have for you today. I look forward to seeing you in my next video, and you know I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I think my next video for you guys is going to be another book recommendation video. So, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.